And we're live.
Hello and welcome to another live demonstration. If you'd watched my demonstration last week, you would have seen me using a visual journal just to work out what I was doing for this week. So the journal is a great tool to be able to plan, to decide on your colours, to decide on your composition. And this time I'm going to do the demonstration as much as I can from live. I have the live plant in front of me, but I also have a photograph, lots of references, just so I can see colour and maybe a bit more shape. So I will talk about the products I've used a little more than I did when I was showing you the visual journal, and just give you a demonstration of how I went from thinking about it to a final piece. So for my final piece, or a finished piece as much as it is, I'm actually going to sketch out with a pencil. Now in my sketchbook I will have sketched out with a pen. The reason for that is if I'd sketched out with a pencil in my sketchbook, I would have just keep rubbing out and going back, rubbing out, going back. You don't move forward. So I use a pen that you can't erase because you make marks. You can then just do another one, and this is how your thought process goes instead of doing it and rubbing out and going backwards all the time. But as I'm doing a fairly finished piece, I want to make sure that if I do make a mistake or it's not in the right place, I can move it. But on the whole, I will do most of my sketches with a pen. Just be brave. Just don't worry about the marks you're going to make. And if they're not in the right place, move them. Show how you've moved them. Show how you thought about what you're doing. So using a 2B, a good standard pencil, I'm just going to look at the cactus in front of me. And because I've done all my sketches in my sketchbook, I've decided on the composition. I don't want to do the whole plant. I want to focus on the part of the plant. And the nice part at the moment is the flower, and that's just starting to come out. So I'm just thinking about where it goes on the page. Even though I've done the composition, I'm still thinking about it again. But it's going to be much easier because I've already decided on that I want the feature to be the flower. So going down, picking up, just fitted on. So what I would have done if it hadn't fitted on, I would have moved it, but that fitted on. And again, as much as I'm painting from life, not everybody can see the exact image that you're painting from or drawing at this stage. So you can add bits to it, and that's what I might actually do. So this leaf is actually coming out there, little wave to it, and I'm not overly worried that it's not quite the same because I can still alter that when I do the put the colour on. So even at that stage I can change and alter. What I do have to remember is that the pen is going to cover this pencil, so I just need to keep referring back, even when I'm putting the colour on, to the original. Okay. Looking at that shape. So this is actually quite, breaking it down into simple shapes actually makes it quite easy to draw. It looks quite complicated with all the branches on it, but you just look at the simple shapes it makes. It's got to cut out nick there, and there's a joins another branch here. So how does that join? Let's have a look. You've got another leaf, I think these are, coming out here, slight kink in it, and then one turning with a lovely rounded shape. Can't find any more buds, which I did look for a little earlier on the plant. So, but I might put one because they just have little pink buds. So like I say, I can add features. It doesn't have to be completely the same. So two patches on that side, but 3 on there. Okay, right, so that composition, if I leave it like that, it's not going to be very good. It's 2 over one side. So what I'm going to do is just bring the darker, I think it's an older stem, and then I can bring out some more. What I might do is just bring it round a little bit more than I can see, but I'm constantly, every mark I make, I'm looking back at the plant just to help with shapes. And I'm not going to do everything. If I go onto here, so that breaks up there. There's a bigger stem again joining here. So that's a much better composition as it is. I'm going to do this lovely curling round one. How do I? There's a nick into there. There's another one curling around there. So that's quite nice, that curl. I think I need something here. So let's look at what's happening behind. There's a little one behind here. And I can bring that round here. Just to, like I say, there's no more flowers or buds at the moment. So what I might do is add, I'm still thinking about what's exactly happening with the plant. I don't want to lose completely, so I'm going to put another one here. I like the shape I'm seeing. I'm not going to put the pot on. So is that full enough? No. So let's bring the stem down and do this little green one here, because it's got, for a start, it's a much darker colour, this little green. And actually I might put a little bud on there. Still don't think it's got enough, but what I'll do, I will start to put colour on, and then I can think about actually putting more on as I go along. And that's sometimes what I do. Unless it's a really precise drawing, I will add other features and think, actually, I might just put another leaf there, it works. So I'm going to be using the Graphik, Derwent Graphik markers, and these are, I need a blue, these are, they're really lovely pens. They're very wet, so they need to be activated, shake, and then you just depress to get some colour down. And what can happen, let's see if I can make the green go, is you get quite a lot of colour come down. So that's why I've got a palette over here, because I don't want to waste this colour, and I can use it and pick it up with a brush. But it is designed to do this, and what you can do is you can blow, you can add water, you could splatter. So not only is it a pen, which I will show you, I'm just going to try and work downwards because that will help with my composition, especially if I'm drawing from life. I can't always see. That's a small green. So you can see here, it's a pen. Now they're movable with water while they're wet, and it does depend on the paper, how well they move. So this is still quite wet. I've not got enough hands. I'll just move everything out. Just using water inside the water pen, and you can see there how much it does move. It moves a little better than it did when I was using the sketch pad, because I'm using a different paper. So it is a good idea to always check your pens, if you're working by putting the pen on, that they do still move on the paper you're using. because other papers, they tend to grip and they don't move as well when they're dry. So now I know that works, I'm going to put some colour on. Just lost, so that's quite yellow. I put these on, okay, these are quite green. And you can see there I put quite a lot of colour by depressing the pen, because I'm a little impatient and I just want to add the colour on. Just add a bit of colour here, a bit of colour there. Just going to drop some yellow in, because these are much more yellow. I think I need to clean my nibs, which are easy to do, and I will show you, to be honest, which is why I'm not getting a full flow at the moment. Okay, it's coming through now. So it is important you do clean your nibs. Let's see, because I might have too much colour there, but I can pick that up and just move it over here at the moment. So these are much darker leaves, much greener. It's quite yellow, so maybe I've got too much green, but it's not a problem. Just activate some water, just so it's more watery. And what I like about these pens is they're opaque, so you can go over, even the colours like the yellow, I can go back in and I can go back over the green and cover with the yellow. So the lighter colours are great covering. So just pushing the colour around the page. Okay. And again, let's pick up here. Much greener. I think this green works quite nicely, but it's not quite got enough darkness to it. So I'm going to have to add some, there isn't a dark green, there's only the one green in this set. So I'll add some blue. But you can see here I'm picking up some of the colour, and you can see the different tones that I'm creating. Let me add some of this yellow, because this is a little bit more yellow down here. So I'm using the pens not always as pens, especially on this paper, but a little bit more as a paint, pushing it round. Okay, that's quite yellow. So different tones, still only use two colours. You can see there how I can go back in and slightly alter and change the tones. So this one was quite green, so back in with the pen. Let me put some out on the palette, like I said. I'll take it from the wrong brush top. I'm putting the tops on because I don't want them to dry out, which is possibly why they're not working as well. And I'll show you cleaning the nibs, just so I can get them. And once you've cleaned the nibs, they really flow. Okay, there you go. You can see that. This is much browner. And I might come back and put another leaf here, but let me just start to build up here. And this is simple, this is just at the moment two colours. The green's already there, and I haven't done much other than pick the colour up on my water brush and move it around. And it's starting to come together already. I like to see the pencil marks under a painting usually, but these colours are quite covering, so I may lose it. But what I could do is I'll do it a bit like a pen and wash and bring the shapes back in with a bit of a waterproof pen on top. So this is just the green I'm picking up, and look at all those tones I'm picking up already. That's really easy. So much stronger here, a lot lighter picking it up, but that was just so easy. Okay, let's have a look and maybe adding a little bit of tone. I said I would clean the pens, actually. That's what I'm going to do. So the pen, you can see there, it may have got a little bit gunky, but they're designed to clean easily. So I'm just going to pull it out, give it a little clean, and you can see there the nib. Once I've cleaned that, it will just flow much easier. So occasionally pull the nib out, give it a clean, and then you're off again. Back in again. Activate gently. And now I've got it working very much better as a pen. It's much more fluid. I can feel the difference, I really can. That was just needed a clean. I think the yellow is the same. So just add in a little bit of tone with the green. So now I've cleaned that, I'm going to make sure it's lid's back on. So now with the blue, if I've activated too much, just clean the nib off. And what I want to do is add a little bit of tonal value. So they have a darkness down here. This might be a bit too strong. Only a little bit of pigment I've put on. Again, I'm moving it with water, that's all. You can see there how that's suddenly just blended in and created a little bit of tonal value, a bit more darkness. Didn't put a lot on because I didn't want to lose some of the colours I'd already put on, and they're really nice colours. What I want to do is bring out down the middle of the leaves, they've got a vein. I just want to add that because I think it's part of the character of the plant. It's where the water you can see when you don't need to water these very often unless they're really dry, which is probably why I've managed to keep mine for such a long time. And then when you do, you can literally almost see the water being sucked up into the plant through this vein here, and they start to plump out. So it's nice to watch. Like I say, this plant, I'm sure I've had, it must be 20 years because I don't remember repotting it. So it's been around a long time, and like I say, I haven't been overly kind to it. I water it when it looks like it needs it, but obviously this has worked. This one, this has got a little bit more character, so see if I can bring that round and a little bit more green. So I'm using these Graphik pens much more as a paint, but that's the great thing about them, you can use them in different ways. I'm going to leave the leaves now, take a short break, and then I can come back and then we can start on other colours. So if you join me in a few minutes and we'll continue with this demonstration.
Let us bring out the artist in you. If you'd like to learn how to paint or improve your painting, the SAA is here to inform, encourage, and inspire you every step of the way. When you become an SAA member, you get so many benefits, including the free bi-monthly newsletter Paint, packed with inspiring step-by-step projects, fascinating articles, and detailed information to get your creative juices flowing. Discounts on over 13,000 art products featured on the SAA website and in the Home Shop catalogue, with free order line and free delivery in the UK mainland. A devoted SAA team on hand to answer your questions and give you the confidence and motivation you need to start painting and develop at a pace that suits you. Plus, a free welcome pack filled with gifts and practical help to get you started, as well as the opportunity to make friends with like-minded people.
Best thing about that member is the inspiration from the magazines, to be able to purchase things at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, you get the reduction on all the materials, the advice you get.
I can shop from home.
It's a community.
It seemed like a very friendly sort of organisation.
If somebody's thinking of joining, don't spend too long thinking. Just join. They'll love it.
And we're back.
Hello and welcome back. So I've had a chance to look, review. What I'm going to do is put more colour on, but then if I feel it needs it, I'm going to put some more leaves on. So in this set, there is only one brown. So I'm going to see what I can do with other colours, a bit of a red colour and a bit of yellow. You can mix them. I didn't tell you about the names on these pens, which are quite fun. Just found another green as well. So this one's called Fingers, so green fingers. We were always trying to work out what they were. Tom, so that must be tomato, red tomato.
Ginger Tom.
Oh, Ginger Tom, yes, someone told me that the other day. Ginger Tom. Red herring. So they've actually been really fun in creating some of these names. I think Silver Fox is my favourite. That's the blue. Brilliant blue. That's not overly exciting. Brick Road, Yellow Brick Road. There you go. So someone's had a lot of fun creating these, the names for the colours. Okay, so now I'm going to use it as a pen because this part of the plant, the browner, older part of the plant, is a little bit more texture. It's not the soft smoothness of the leaves, it's much more gnarled. So that is one bit that goes behind actually, so I need to make sure that's dark. I'm having to refer back to both the image and the plant because I've lost the drawing a little bit. I'm not sure what bit refers to what bit. And this is where it is useful to have an image in front of you or the object, because sometimes you can't remember what you're going to have to do something here because I can't see that works. What your lines mean. So it is great to have a reference. And here I've just gone over the green, just so that the brown stem goes over it. And that's really easy to do. So loads of texture, just literally squiggling it around and see what happens. I'll add a bit of yellow. Again, I'm adding colour. This needs a clean. So like I did with the green, I'm just going to take the nib out, give it a clean and pop it back in. Okay, that's much better. You can just feel it once it needs a clean. Some yellow. A bit of blue. Dot it around. So this is quite dark under here. And I'll see how that works. Because I knew I wanted to move the colour with the water. Now if this doesn't work as well as I'd expect, which it isn't for some reason, it's easy enough to just go back and pick up some colour. So what it is doing really nicely is it's leaving some texture, but what it's not doing is filling out colour. So Brick Road, is that red? Drop some of that in. I'm just going to pick it up with the pen. Keep some of those textures underneath, but fill in a little bit more with the colour. And I'm just keeping some of the areas which I like. There. So a mix match of both the pen and the colour. And here, just make sure it goes over. Right, I'm going to need to darken this. In this set I haven't got a huge amount of colours. I don't want to use black, but I do want to darken, so just using good old blue and brown to make a grey, just as you would do in your watercolour. Okay, let's darken off here, and I think that works because you can see different textures in there. I need to remember to do this bit so it attaches itself and that it doesn't just float in midair. Take it over the tape. Okay, this area is bothering me a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add more leaves. And these are going to come round like this. So just once you've learnt the shape of your leaves, you can just add more. So I've got another one coming through here, another one coming down here. Just needs to, you have some tiny ones, so I'm going to take that one over there, and that just brings that together a bit more. Add another one here, bring it behind there. Okay. So for me, that is going to work so much better than the composition that I had. It just wasn't. So here's this more solid body of the plant moving over to the ones on the outer edge, but it wasn't working before I did this. So just add in a little bit more greenery. Quickly putting this down just so I can then judge whether I need any more. This one I'm going to have to work back. So basically I'm plotting just with colour at the moment. That works so much better, and I could possibly even put some more here. Just look too empty and open. Right, now I need to darken and strengthen that green because it's behind. So in with the colour I've got on my palette. So with the pen you're able to tonal value, i.e. a lot more water, you get some lovely lighter tones, and then go in with the darker colour, the much more opaque pen. So at the moment I'm painting, what I'm going to do is come back in with it as a pen for the darker areas. So this does need to be much darker just to push that one forward. And this one, because I changed and decided that it was now going over, I need to push that one forward and push the one behind back. Okay. More green. colour on using the pen. So it's a very fine nib, which is why I will get the colour flowing a little bit more by depressing the nib and letting it flow out. But I do find it works really nicely once you've got a layer of colour down and to go over. It then works really nicely. That's something you've got to just be a little aware of. It does blob a little bit. Okay. Right, now I need to work on this area. Think about it, because at the moment it's a mass of green. So how do I get it looking less like a mass of green and more like layers of plant? It's going to be done using the blue. So let's think. You know when you do your negative painting, this is what I'm going to need to do. So the negative painting is bringing out, you draw around the lighter areas which push forward by painting darker areas behind. You can see how that has pushed. So that one is behind. Don't want to create too much darkness. All I want to just do is suggest that this one is above these ones that are behind, and that they need to be in shadow, because this plant, this leaf or stem, is creating shadow on the ones below. But it doesn't mean it's creating shadow over the whole of the leaf. Some of the leaf will still be hitting the light. If I stand back, that should now push that forward, and what I can also do is I can add some yellow and go back into it. So this is quite a quick process. It's just the touches that really start to push things back. Okay, that's nice. Need a bit of yellow. So this needs to come forward a little bit. Come on, flow. That's a nice colour. Just adding a little bit more tone. So by lightening this, it just pushes this forward, so this is now above. And if it's too harsh, soften it. And I'm going to do the same here. Just add a little highlight across the top, just so it pushes it forward. So you just have to think about, does it look like it's on top? Where's it going to? Does it look like it's going where it should do? And I don't know if you can see that, but I could suddenly see how that really pushed it forward. I'm not going to work too much on there. Quite like this bit, this possibly needs a bit of work, but I'm going to just jump in with my flower. And then I'm going to think about a background. Does it need it? Because I'm not always keen on backgrounds. And what can I do with the pens? So I'm just adding a little bit of colour, because I can see how well this pink is flowing. It's adding, I want to work and show that flick. Adding a lot of colour down, cleaning my brush. So this is just water in here, cleaning it. And I'm going to bring the water down because it's quite strong. Again, quite a simple process. All you're doing is using one colour and just seeing how it works, how it can create the tones that you're looking for. So one colour and water, and look at all of those tones that you've just created. It does take a little practice knowing how much water you need, because like I say, the colour's quite strong. Okay, move it up, pick up this edge. The edge underneath. I'd say that's dried a bit too much for me to pick up. Okay. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of colour to the palette, and then I can just bring a little bit more tone. So this is darker underneath. See if I can just catch that with a pen. The paper's wet, so I do have to be careful. If I don't want it to bleed, I'm going to have to let it dry. But I quite like the softness I'm getting. Right, is that enough? I'm going to leave that. I like that. I've still got a slightly contaminated brush. Before I put the yellow on here. Again, just add colour. I might just drop a little bit of this yellow through. It kind of pings it all together. And like I said, I was going to add a little bud here. Tiny dot. I've only put a dot of colour, but look how far it moves. There you go. Let me finish off this, because it looks a little unfinished, like I've not thought about it, which I haven't, but it's not what I want it to look like. Now I can go back in with a pen and give it a little bit more of a textured look over the colour. I just like the way you can just manipulate the colours and the textures. And then if it doesn't work, go over it. So this needs a little bit more detail. Don't lean on it either. It's okay because I've just caught the top of the tape, but it is such a pain when you lean on something in the middle of your painting. Maybe a bit of blue to there. Okay, right, so looking at that, it looks okay. What I'm going to do is I want it to be a little bit more detailed. At the moment I love the colours on it, but I want a little bit more. So I'm going to use a Micron pen, which is one of my favourites. It's a waterproof pen, and I can just now bring out some shape. And I'm going to do it very sketchily. Plus, these leaves often have little hair-like at the edges, so I want to concentrate on that. I'm just looking at where that goes round. Just bring out some of those details, but not, I don't want to go round and lose. So this is kind of a dib-dab sketchy way. So I'm just dabbing and dashing and dotting around the shape just to bring it back. But I'm not doing a solid line. And again, bring out some of those little features. And then I'm going to do the background because I think it needs something. Don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to see what happens, because I hadn't thought about a background in sketching, because sometimes I really do need just to see how it finishes, what it looks like here. So this is a lovely shape and I want to keep that. comes round here, little shape here, and then it catches that one, and then bring it here. And probably if you're right-handed, you will have worked that way. I just get a little excited about what I want to do and forget that I actually need to work across the page. And that's attached to there. Right. Okay. How they join. That extra leaf I put in, I think works well. Go and come back here. That's got a notch out. I need to make sure that they actually touch each other and that they join. There we go. Like I say, I'm not going round the whole of it. I'm dashing, dotting, just to keep that, add another texture, to be honest. And on the flower, I'm going to be even more delicate, not quite as soft. And I'm not actually going to do much to it because I think it's already got the shape it needs. Okay, let's see if I can add some more texture under here. I think I'm just playing with it now. So like I said, I don't know if it's finished. It could be, but I think I want to try and put a background in. So the reason I used a waterproof pen is so I can do this. I'm not overly worried if the other colours spread, but I am being more careful. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen, so we'll see. Can't see where the water is, so you need to either tip your page, which I can't because it's taped down, and you'll see the shine on it. And you'd be surprised, even though you think you've gone over the whole page, how much you actually miss. Have I got enough water in there? Yeah, I've got plenty. Okay, let's just move it. You can hear the pen breathing, it's just sucked itself back in. That's really funny. So my tools are alive and breathing. Okay. I just want to make sure I've got wet on the page. So let's see what happens if I just drop colour in. I'm not going to leave it dotty. I'm just going to see what I can do with the colours. How much, see, good. I will move them and blend them. I just wanted to see how much movement I would get from the pen. Look at that, that's fab. A little bit too much, but now I can move it. Might do that again here. Don't want to do too much because, like I say, they're quite strong colours. But I did like that. Just moved itself into place. Look at the greens, how they've worked underneath here. I've not needed to do anything. So I think this needs a bit more water because it's quite dry now. Contaminated brush, that worked fine. Why not use that? Create another colour. Just making sure that the background does actually touch the plant, because that's what I have seen where backgrounds don't really, they're disassociated with the subject because they have white halos around. All I'm doing is I just wet the page and blob colour on. Now I'm pushing it up to the plant. Just so it touches, and you can see I don't have to be overly careful because now it's dried, it's not moving as much. Maybe a bit too green there, so wet again. nearly finished contaminated brush, so that works. Drop some blue in, and I think that's going to be enough to use elsewhere. I want the blue because it's getting a bit too green. Look at the strength of that colour. It's probably a bit too much. Let's just wet my brush. See if I can take it back down. That, it's easy to fix because the pens are opaque and they'll go back over. So again, not worried about bits and pieces. Just that didn't work so much. So, too dark. Might use it and bring it down a little bit more. So, I'm working with, often the materials will kind of take me in a direction that I didn't know I was going to go into. Quite like that darkness. I'm still picking up some of that colour, just changing the values here a little bit. Because now that's quite dark, I do need to think about how dark my other darks are. Not too bad. I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to blot this. And actually that's fixed there. A little bit of a halo here, which I talked about trying to avoid. Okay. I think that's worked quite well. So using the Graphik pens not only as pens, and I can go in and I can add detail as a pen, but also with a water brush to create a much more fluid painting. This is quite wet at the moment, but I'm going to try and take the tape off without ripping, because I always think the reveal is just the exciting part. And just note, I can go back in with the pens, they're opaque, they will cover. Yes, that bit worked. Try this bit, it's the wetter side. Yeah, it is always, you're kind of holding your breath a bit, so when you've done something that it doesn't rip the paper. Okay. Oh, there we go, it's starting to. So I can do slowly angle the tape. I need to be slower, because any tears or rips will rip away. And to be honest, once it's in the frame, you don't see it anyway. This tape was quite sticky. Yay. Okay. Don't need to rush at the end and ruin it. Okay, so there's a few things I did there. Firstly, I used a plant. I used inspiration, which is sitting on my windowsill, to give me something to work on. I showed you how I used a sketchbook, how to build up ideas, how to choose colours. And even as I was doing that, I was still thinking about things. I was still saying, oh, let's see what happens. And using the Graphik pens, which are fabulous painting tools as well as pens. Opaque, covering, they will go on coloured papers. So a lot of fun. Just be aware that they can blob, but be prepared for that. Use your palette, use that blobbiness. And you can see there how it created the background on its own. Then using a waterproof pen, because I knew I was going to wet the page, just to give a little bit more detail. But you can do it in your own way. You can use watercolour, you can use pencil. Just find something that, an everyday object, and then use different mediums. Do that same object in different mediums. So, new year, new start, new materials, find something different, find a new way of working, and doesn't have to be a finished piece. It's all part of the fun, the learning and discovering yourself. So new year, new start. So let's start with that. And join us next week for a live workshop with Vic Beercroft.